what inspires me this Palm Sunday? I've celebrated 68 Palm Sundays, some of them pre-conscious, many semi-conscious, especially when I was in high school and college, I'm sure. But if I'm awake and listening, it does not fail that something seems to slice into my life in a new way, opening up something new to the light, opening new possibilities for how to be in this world. This Palm Sunday, what I'm hearing is how kind Jesus was. How kind Jesus was, even as everything was falling apart. I'm not sure that when things are falling apart in our lives, we remain kind. I'm not sure that when things are falling apart for us, we're not more preoccupied with ourselves. I'm not sure on a bad day, we don't become crabby, maybe even mean to the people around us who mean the most to us, and take it out on somebody else. Yet here's Jesus, with the world closing in on him, rejected and betrayed by the people he only wanted to help. His whole life project a failure to everybody around him. Executed between two criminals to make it clear that he was one of them, and in immense physical pain. And he was so kind. To his last breath, he was so kind to people, to his own and to strangers and to enemies all around him, jeering at him. He was so kind. The story of the Passion we're about to hear from Luke begins with the Last Supper. Jesus just wanted one last time to gather with those who were his own in the world. One last supper, one last Passover meal. You know how important it is to create a family around a meal and hope this meal will be awesome for everybody there. You really want it to work this time. And the kids break out in an argument or a fight. Somebody slouches in their chair and they refuse to eat. And one runs to his room. And that's what happened at that Last Supper, his very last supper. They broke out in a fight over who was the greatest. We're about to hear about Peter's denial predicted by Jesus. And in that same breath, Jesus affirms Peter's future, even as he's aware that he's about to be denied by him. The anguish in the garden is so dear that it draws sweat with blood. He's comforted there with an angel. When his companions failed him, there is comfort there for him. He heals the high priest's servant ear that was just sliced off by his apostles, who he asked not to do that. He takes the time in the chaos of that moment to heal his ear. And then there's that knowing look Jesus bestows on Peter after his denial that moves Peter to weep. And there's Jesus before Herod, only responding with evenness, kindness, and even silence. Jesus' words to the women on his way to the cross. The three things he says from that cross. And the words of the criminal, the words to the criminal dying beside him. Nearly all of these things have the effect of softening the hard edges of a brutal, brutal story. A terrible story, really, revealing the absolute tenderness of our human Lord who's about to die. Even in the hour of his death, Jesus continues to love, to heal, to forgive, and to include. Luke's Jesus in the end will not be hardened or absorbed by the violence all around him and the disloyalty of his own. When most of us would have been preoccupied with ourselves at a time like this, and full of anxiety and rage, making us even more preoccupied with ourselves. Not him. His focus remains on the faces of those around him and their pain. Not just his, but their pain. Even the pain on the faces of his enemies. No, not him. I don't know about you, but I want to know this man. I want to know this man. I want to know what makes him tick. I want to see what he saw in those faces, even those faces that were hurting him and abusing him so deeply. And I want to be like him to my last breath. This is a beautiful life. This is a beautiful death. You and I are capable of both.